Еще раз добрый вечер, дамы и господа. Тем, кто был на предыдущем мастер-классе, еще раз. Мы, наверное, уже будем начинать. Меня зовут Айко Токен. Я буду модератором сегодняшней сессии. Я директор по развитию медиа-агентства Success. Вот наш логотип можете видеть там. Позвольте мне представить нашего спикера Тима Миллера, генерального директора ТШО, который сегодня очень благородно согласился провести с нами эти 1,5 часа с молодыми специалистами, студентами, поэтому давайте его дружно поблагодарим. Я немножко сейчас расскажу, как будет строиться сессия. Господин Миллер, конечно, будет говорить на английском языке, поэтому у вас у всех есть наушники. Вопросы можете задавать на русском, он тоже будет слышать все на английском. Мы сейчас сначала посмотрим короткий видеоролик, представление нашего спикера. После этого немножко поговорим, и мистер Миллер даст речь об инновациях и лидерстве. Давайте посмотрим ролик.
Тимоти Глен Миллер. С 2010 года генеральный директор крупнейшей казахстанской нефтегазовой компании «Тенгизшевройл», организованной 22 года назад с широким привлечением иностранных инвестиций. Тим Миллер – высококвалифицированный инженер и менеджер нефтяного производства, имеющий богатый опыт работы в международных подразделениях одной из крупнейших мировых нефтяных корпораций «Шеврон». Уроженец американского штата Техас, свой трудовой путь Тим начал в 17 лет, будучи студентом, в качестве рабочего. Он работал над заливкой бетонных плит на различных стройках.
Моя первая работа научила меня многому в планировании работы и понимании важности ее эффективного выполнения для получения конечного результата. Также я научился работать и строить отношения с множеством людей, имеющих различный опыт и специализацию. Благодаря этой работе я также научился ценить вклад рабочих в общий успех.
Тим окончил колледж по специальности общее проектирование, а затем, с отличием, Техасский технический университет, получив степень бакалавра естественных наук в инженерной механике. В нефтяной отрасли Тим начал работать за год до окончания университета на одном из месторождений компании «Тексака». Проработав здесь в общей сложности 7 лет, молодой инженер не только приобрел глубокий опыт практической работы, но и одновременно прошел курс интенсивного обучения и стал профессиональным инженером-нефтяником.
Непосредственно познать трудности процесса нефтедобычи мне пришлось, испытав свой характер и в бурении, и на строительстве и ремонте скважин, и в операциях по контролю параметров пластов, а также устранению нештатных ситуаций. Значимая часть моей ранней карьеры в сфере проектирования и строительства прошла в нефтегазовой промышленности, что способствовало моему росту как специалиста. И в результате этого я буквально влюбился в эту профессию и посвятил ей 33 года своей жизни, и горжусь тем, что являюсь нефтяником.
Первую руководящую должность супервайзера Тим Миллер получил после 10 лет стажа на нефтянке. Ну а затем его карьера – это практически вертикальный взлет к высотам профессионального признания. Он в течение нескольких лет занимал различные ответственные должности в структуре Тексака, а в 2000 году получил назначение в Кувейт на руководящую должность международного уровня. Семья переехала на Аравийский полуостров, и если для жены Кайлы и 3 сыновей это означало прежде всего познание новой культуры, то Тим получил закалку как специалист и управленец, решая не только производственные, но и, по сути, дипломатические вопросы в условиях обострившейся политической обстановки в регионе. После слияния корпораций «Шеврон» и «Тексака» Тим Миллер был переведен в головной офис «Шеврона» в город Сан-Рамон, штат Калифорния, Соединенные Штаты Америки, где он 1,5 года занимался вопросами международного развития, а затем получил назначение в Бразилию, где руководил геологоразведкой и добычей нефти в бразильском подразделении. Далее остров Борнео, Индонезия. Здесь Миллер уже возглавил подразделение «Шеврона».
Мой предыдущий опыт, видимо, готовил меня для успешной работы в Казахстане. Тенгизшевройл не только самый крупный актив корпорации «Шеврон», но, пожалуй, по всем параметрам лучший. Великолепный коллектив профессионалов, высокообразованных и преданных своему делу людей. На этом гигантском месторождении удалось реализовать очень смелые проекты. Тенгиз с самого начала был вызовом, и люди этот вызов приняли и победили. И как инженеру, и как руководителю, и просто как человеку. Здесь чрезвычайно интересно работать. Я счастлив, что я здесь, и горжусь тем, что возглавляю ТОО.
Профессиональная компетентность, основанная на большом практическом опыте, аналитический стиль руководства, постоянное стремление к самообразованию и искреннее, глубочайшее уважение ко всем, кто вместе с ним реализует задачи компании – вот прочный фундамент успеха этого человека на своем поприще. Добавьте к этому открытость, оптимизм, неистощимую тягу к культуре и искусству, бережное отношение к семье и семейным ценностям. На наш взгляд, Тим Миллер является ярким примером высококвалифицированного специалиста и эффективного лидера.
Давайте не будем больше терять ни минуты, поприветствуем господина Тима Миллера. So, thank you, Mr. Miller, for coming here tonight. And I guess I would like to start this session with a quote I read right before, this workshop.
Well, I hope it's accurate.
It says, a good leader is an innovative leader, and a great leader is a good leader with an innovative team. So, so this leads me to my first question. How does TCO invest in human capital? How does it lead its people to innovation, maybe some training or development programs or anything else like that?
Okay. Well, that's a great quote, by the way. I like that because I think oftentimes people think the leader do it all, but a good team is really the key. And we have several development programs in TCO. One of the most important is the one that our new employees take, mostly the technical employees. We call it Horizons. And it's a very intensive program over 5 years where they have 3 or 4 different assignments and they have some deep technical studies, and it helps set our employees up for success during their first 5 years. And the graduates of the first Horizons class have just started coming out of TCO and are moving into more positions of responsibility. So it's a great program, and we're very proud of that part of it. We also have leadership development training, and we have educational assistance programs, and we also work hard to try to get our employees working in international operations around the world. We currently have about 86 employees working in Chevron's operations worldwide.
Thank you. My second question is, we were polling the audience in the previous workshop, and it turns out that actually 90% of the audience is students. So I'd like to go back to the beginnings and ask you, how did it all start for you? How was it in college? How did you choose your profession? How did you go into, actual world, real world?
Well, it's a great question. When I was in high school, actually I had dreams of being an architect. And I had a teacher in my senior year of high school that told me about how difficult it is to really make your way as an architect in the United States. And he suggested that I take engineering. Now, my father is a petroleum engineer, but he does reservoir engineering work. And he worked for the Department of Interior of the United States government, assessing the helium reserves around the world. And I thought his job was very boring. So I definitely did not want to go into petroleum engineering. So I chose mechanical engineering. And I worked my way through 3 years of mechanical engineering discipline. And between my junior and senior year, I was offered a job by Texaco. And there's where I saw the real oil field. Not the oil field I thought about from my father, but the real oil field. And I fell in love with it at that time. And actually Texaco offered me a job after that first internship and said, if you'll come back when you graduate, we'll make you a full-time employee.
That's a great start. Did you have any mentors at your first job place? Was there anyone who actually led you to who you are today?
Well, only about 1,000, I think, mentors. And that's one thing that I've learned is that you can learn things from everybody. And I think I learned more from the people that work in the field and actually have their hands-on experience than I did from the managers that I had met through the years. And I really enjoyed my engagement with field people, and that's where I learned more than anything else, and how to relate to different people as well.
Well, I guess this leads me to my last question before your speech on innovation and leadership. What are the key characteristics for a leader to have?
Well, I think, some people think that leaders are born, but I think that leaders learn how to be leaders. And I think if you were to pin me down to only one characteristic that I could talk about today, I think it would be initiative. And that would be whatever needs to be done, whatever team needs to be developed, you're the first to volunteer. Let me know what I can do. I'll be a part of it. I will lead it. And that initiative is what I think sets apart the stars at work from the average employee and ultimately leads people to be great leaders.
Well, then I guess I'll have an initiative to give you, a word to have your speech.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you very much for the floor. And Salamat Dharma. Good to see everybody here. Здравствуйте. Good afternoon. So it's really a great opportunity for me to meet with you and participate in a live dialogue for future petroleum industry leaders. I'm looking forward to your questions, and I'm sure they'll be great ones. So let me tell you about the company that I lead, its achievements and its key performance metrics. Let's go to the next slide, please. The Tengizshevroйл joint venture was founded in 1993 with the objectives of delivering stable, reliable production from the Tengiz oil field with high concentrations of H2S in the crude oil. Today, Tengizshevroйл produces about 30% of Kazakhstan's oil. Our production growth is 26 times it was when we first started in 1993. Now in 2013, our overall safety performance was significantly better than the global oil and gas industry average. And earlier this year, Kazakhstan International Occupational Safety and Health Conference, TCO was named the safest company in Kazakhstan. This is our 4th year in a row to receive that award. We enjoy our success because of the decision of President Nazarbayev to stimulate foreign direct investment in Kazakhstan and Chevron's willingness to invest in a newly independent country. TCO's current performance is confirmation of the correctness of that decision. Next slide, please. Since 1993 and up to the first half of 2014, our direct payments to Kazakhstan comprised $96.9 billion, including our national employees' salaries, procurement of Kazakh goods and services, payments to national enterprises, dividend distribution to our Kazakh partner, as well as a very significant amount of taxes and royalty transferred to the national budget. Now, to generate these payments, we've had to make significant and steadily increasing investments. So let me give you an example. Between 1993 and 2001, our annual average capital investment was $300 million. If you take the period between 2001 and 2012, our average capital investment increased to almost $1.2 billion per year. Next slide. Our success can also be attributed to our partnership with Kazakhstani businesses that supply us with goods and services. Our local content requirements are incorporated in contracting strategies to ensure a systematic approach to local content development. It also explains why, since 1993, we've purchased $16.5 billion in goods and services from local suppliers. Next slide. Now, social investments that are made by companies are a very important aspect when considering the benefits of the oil and gas industry on a country. TCO has 2 primary programs through which we make our social investments. One is our community investment program, and the second one is our voluntary EGLIC program used to invest in infrastructure projects. Since our formation in 1993, TCO has made $920 million of social investments in the Atyrau Oblast of the Republic of Kazakhstan. Next slide. TCO widely implements innovative technologies in its operations as well. An example of this has been demonstrated with TCO's latest expansion of the Tengiz field, which was completed in 2008. The expansion was designed to re-inject 1/3 of the produced sour gas back into the Tengiz reservoir and to increase recovery. Now, the injection compressor that enabled us to achieve our objective was like no other compressor in the world, and it still represents state-of-the-art technology in sour gas injection. In developing the compressor, we relied on a number of strategic partnerships. We worked with GE Oil and Gas, General Electric Oil and Gas, who were and are a leading supplier of oil field compressors for severe duty. GE also brought their experience from working with the Karachaganak project, which has similar pressures and volumes as does Tengiz. And we also engaged experts from our joint venture partners to gather their experiences in relevant operating conditions. The success of the sour gas injection project is truly a game changer for our future. Next slide. In the first half of 2014, we produced 13 million tons of crude oil. We're currently delivering top quartile reliability performance. Now, that word reliability is a very important metric for us because a high reliability plant is a safe plant. It's also important because high reliability means high production. TCO has consistently, reliably, and safely grown production. Since 2000, TCO's investments in capital programs in reliability have resulted in an increased production growth of more than 2.5 times. Now, we've achieved that reliability performance for 2 reasons. The first, we deployed 4 standard processes from our partner Chevron. These processes promote a systematic, consistent, and integrated approach to achieving optimal production system efficiency, well and surface reliability, and incident prevention. The second reason, we dedicate resources in terms of subject matter expertise and money to implement these processes. This example of process innovation is another way we create future opportunities. Next slide. Such technology and process innovations are also helping us improve our environmental performance. Since the year 2000, we've reduced by 70% our emissions per ton of oil produced. During that same period of time, we've increased crude oil production by 130%. Now, we're soon going to complete a project that will help us reduce TCO's water use. It will use state-of-the-art technology and allow a reduction of about 1.8 million cubic meters per year from our current water use rates. This makes good business sense, and it responds to the expectations of the citizens of Kazakhstan that the energy that fuels their improved quality of life must be developed safely and with as little environmental impact as possible. Next slide. Well, I think Kazakhstan's future is full of promise, and TCO is excited about our continued role as a partner in growing the national economy. TCO has an unwavering commitment to being a good partner, focused on building productive, collaborative, and trusting relationships with the government, with other companies, our customers, and our communities. We do what we'll say we will do. We accept responsibility, and we hold ourselves accountable for our work and for our actions. And we strive to earn the trust of our colleagues and partners. The most enduring partnerships are developed when each partner tries to understand the interests and objectives of the other, especially over the long term. So we're going to continue to build on one of the longest and most productive partnerships in Kazakhstan. Lastly, I want to tell you that there is no doubt that one of TCO's key success factors is our workforce, especially our young specialists whose skills and experience allow them to compete with their peers in any part of the world. I believe that you, the young generation, will form the future of the oil and gas industry. And I hope that your future also includes TCO. And with that, I will thank you, say көп рахмет, and open the floor to questions.
Wow, I was listening to your presentation, and those are some mind-blowing numbers of how much funds were injected into Kazakhstani economy, especially Kazakhstani producers of goods and services.
Yeah, absolutely.
In those last 4 years that you spent in Kazakhstan, have you seen, the progress in those goods and services that you buy? Because, this is a lot of money.
It is a lot of money, and it's interesting. There's a lot of focus from many of our peers and partners on the purchase of manufacturing goods. And while that's a part of our business, it only represents between 10 and 20% of our expenditures each year. Services that we secure from local companies is the most important and fundamental aspect of those numbers that you see there. And about 73 to 75% of all services we use in Tengizshevroйл come from Kazakhstani companies.
This is really great. Я думаю, что я больше не буду задерживать время, и, наверное, мы сразу перейдем к вопросам от аудитории, чтобы было побольше времени поговорить. Пожалуйста, выстраивайтесь в очередь, микрофон стоит посередине, и, наверное, давайте перейдем к вопросам. Первый вопрос.
Hello, Mr. Miller. My
Hello.
name is Kuanish Habibulin, and I am senior year student of Mechanical Engineering Department of Nazarbayev University. So I have a number of questions for you. However, due to the limitation in time, I will ask only two most important questions. First one, your background is mechanical engineering. However, after some period of work, you get the position of production and reservoir engineer. How did you do this?
Well, actually, it came about because of the company I worked for. Texaco kind of had a program similar to what we have in Tengizshevroйл. For the first 5 years of my career, they put me through a very intensive program in petroleum and reservoir engineering. And so after a bit of time and some concentrated training, I felt fully qualified to work in the petroleum industry.
Does it mean that young mechanical engineers also could work as a petroleum or reservoir engineer in TCO?
Absolutely. And we have we have our reservoir management group, which is primarily petroleum engineers, but we have a huge facilities engineering group that depends on mechanical engineers, civil engineers, electrical engineers, so absolutely it fits our company.
Okay. Another question is regarding...
I thought that was only two.
No, it was just following question. And second question is regarding your career. After 10 years of working, you just get the first managing position, and after that your career growth was quite rapid. And what makes you unique in comparison to all other managers who also want to grow like you?
Well, it's a good question as well. And I think that first 10 years of my experience was very important because I really felt confident in the knowledge that I gained during that time. And then after that, when people asked me to take on an assignment or take on a challenge, I simply said yes. And I can't think of too many times in my 33 years of work that I've said, no, I don't want to do that. So when people asked me to do it, I did it.
Okay, thank you.
Давайте не будем задавать по несколько вопросов, чтобы дать возможность всем задать вопросы, которые их интересуют.
Good evening, Mr. Miller. I am Davlet Magzimov. I am a former president of SPE student chapter at Nazarbayev University. I'm also the student of Nazarbayev University currently. And I have one question which is more relaxed, I would say. What would you do if you would know that you would be flawlessly successful in something that you would like, besides architecture and engineering? I would ask particularly, would you be a politician or medical doctor or somebody?
I would be a flawless fisherman.
Oh.
But I found that flawless is not part of my nature, unfortunately. And it's interesting that you use that word flawless because, to be honest with you, I've learned more from my mistakes than I have from my successes.
Well, hopefully we also will learn from our mistakes then.
Very good.
Следующий вопрос.
Hello, Mr. Miller. My name is Nargiz Harulbayeva. I'm a scholarship holder of KAZENERGY Association. And first of all, I want to thank you for participating in this event. And my question is, as you said, we are a young generation of future professionals. And could you please tell us about the key points of your career that was important for you?
Okay, good. Well, as I said, the early part of my career, working with the people in the field was very important. But even before I started working for Texaco, I had several jobs that just taught me so much about work, taught me how to get along with a diverse set of people. I learned how to work with my hands. I learned how to work with difficult people. Okay. And some of that stuff that I learned actually before I started working for Texaco was important in my future success.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Timo Miller. I'm Sagun Kulur-Kimbekova, scholarship recipient of KAZENERGY Association. And I know you have been working in Kazakhstan since October 2010. And could you please answer for some questions? How did you choose our region, and what did you think about Kazakhstan at the beginning of your career here? And finally, what has changed in the time? Thank you.
Okay, good. Well, it's interesting. You say, how did I choose Kazakhstan? Actually, Chevron chose Kazakhstan for me. They said, your next job is in Kazakhstan, and I said, yes, sir. So that's how it worked. I had been in Kazakhstan before, and so I knew about it, I knew about the people, and I knew about the tremendous opportunity. And when Chevron told me to go to Kazakhstan, I was very, very honored. I knew what a big asset it was and what a big, important job it was. So it's been great. I would say over the last 10 years, in Atyrau particularly, I've seen just the economy and the middle class just blossom. And I'm seeing a lot of people, spending a lot of time, quality time with their families, and a lot of people doing a lot of recreational things. And I think it's just a sign of the growth of the middle class and the happiness of people in Atyrau. And I've seen that change over the last 4 years. I think things are going really well here.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Miller. Pardon me. You can keep uploading.
Are you going to have to read who you are?
No, I'm trying to comprehend how to pronounce that. Let's call me John.
Okay, John.
I work at Gazprom Line as an instruments engineer. I'd like to ask you an ecological question, general ecological question, not regarding Tengisheroйл or any other company. Recently, what I've seen from the Zombie TV, I've seen an advertisement video that's showing that hydraulic fractionation caused massive ecological damage, and they saw as a video of radioactive and biohazardous agents. They get into soil. Well, I mean, how could they get there? Where did they come from? And they show that on TV. So I started to doubt: was this what is the real impact on ecology of this fractionation, and is it as dangerous, or is there any political influence on that issue?
Okay, well, that's also a good question. Unfortunately, it doesn't apply to us in Kazakhstan in general, because we're not doing a lot of those shallow shale gas fracking here. And in fact, in Tengisheroйл, we do very little fracking. And that's a process where you have a very tight shale oil rock, and to get oil and gas to flow from it, you have to break it into parts and pieces. And while there are some risks to it, companies have been very successful to protect the environment, and I think it's turned into an economic boom in the United States and in other parts of the world as well. And I think that just like any production, petroleum production operation, they have to find the right balance between protection of the environment and contribution to the economy. But I truly think that shale oil fracking can be done safely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Maybe another technological question, if you.
Короткий только, пожалуйста.
You mentioned the sour gas compressor in your speech. How technologically did you manage with tons of corroded metal?
Yeah, well, that's a good question as well. Tengisheroйл field has between 13 to 15% H2S. And so not only is it the corrosion of the steel and how to keep it inside the steel, but it's to keep it away from the people as well, because it is very dangerous. So it's one of our key risks, is to keep the H2S inside the piping and the compressors and stuff. But what we use is a very expensive and steel. It's called Inconel, and also stainless steels that prevent the corrosion of H2S in certain environments. But we have to be real thoughtful about it, and we engage the experts from around the world to choose the metallurgy, and then we work with people like General Electric, Oil and Gas to develop the seals and the metallurgy to make sure that we can safely compress that gas and inject it back into the reservoir. Thanks.
Well, thank you.
Следующий вопрос.
Good evening, Mr. Timo Miller. My name is Rahim Hismetov, and my question is about local content. In company report, which was issued for the 20th year of TCO, it says that about 16% of money was put into local content, and it has reached about 60% by the end of 2020. Is there any plans of TCO to increase this percentage?
Absolutely. We work hard at that every day. And in fact, I've traveled to many places around Kazakhstan this year looking for new opportunities to increase our Kazakh content. We also welcome companies to come into Tengizshevroйл and present their products or their services. And if they can meet our qualifications, we would love to work for them and displace foreign contractors that we may have. So we're looking to increase that as high as potentially possible.
Okay, thank you for the answer.
Good evening, Mr. Timo Miller. My name is Eric Atashev, and I'm working with Schlumberger Company as wireline field engineer. Sorry. As far as I know, in your company, you have some fixed-step programs like employee development programs. And my question is, do you have some programs for university, oil and gas university students, like internships, scholarships? If so, what kind of programs?
We do. We have a pretty healthy internship program every year, and we have people that internship in our headquarters offices in Atyrau and also in our field offices in Tengiz. And we also have several programs to help young people pay for their university education. And we're just in the process of making the final decisions on the numbers of people that we can support in that program. So we have both of those things available, and we'd love to have people intern with TCO.
Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Ainur. I'm a senior student of Nazarbayev University. I have two questions. Maybe they can be too personal, but I decided to ask. So the first one, could you tell at least two your weaknesses that you are still working on, or which were challenging to change? What you suggest for young professionals and students? And the second question is also personal. You mentioned that you travel a lot. So how your wife and children react to this, that they have to change their places every 5 years? So how would you explain them?
Well, that's a great question. You know, I have a lot of weaknesses, to be honest with you, and I could probably ask my colleagues here to get up and list the 100 that's already in their mind. But one of the things that's a struggle for me is to prioritize things correctly. And oftentimes with the noise of the day and so many people coming in with issues, I find myself working on things that are not as important as others. And at the end of the day, when I have to finish up, I think, I didn't spend the time on the most important things today. So prioritization is one thing that I think is a weakness and something I could improve on. The other one is just effective use of my time. You know, the day goes so quickly that I have to be focused on effectively using my time every minute. And so the time that I let slip by sometimes can be, you know, troubling for me as well. Now, with respect to my wife and children, my children are now grown and out of the house and probably older than you are, but I have 3 boys, and they're all living in the United States, and I currently have 5 grandchildren and another one on the way. But ever since my children have been out of the house, my wife has treated our work and the different places we've gone a bit like a roller coaster. When I call her and tell her, well, dear, we're about to be transferred to Brazil, she just puts her hands up and says, whee, let's go. So great. My wife has been a very important part of my job, and her being with me helps keep me stable and safe and productive. So she's definitely a good part of my career as well.
Thank you.
Good day, welcome to our college. My name is Nursaya and I am a student of this college. To be exactly, it's the IPEC Petrotechnic. It works with Association Said Polytechnic from Canada. So my question is, in the video about you, you told that petroleum engineering is boring for you. You find it boring. And right now I'm taking a production field operation. And I'm thinking about the petroleum engineer in the future. What should I do?
Well, let me clarify that. The vision of petroleum engineering that I had only from looking at what my father did, I thought was boring. But when I really actually understood what petroleum engineering was in the oil field, it's not anything near boring. And my father had an important job, but it was completely a desk job. And he worked with numbers all the time. And I just saw what he did, and I thought, you know. But my experience from my first job was it's not all about the desk, and it's about getting out and seeing equipment and seeing, you know, things in real life and making dynamic decisions. So I would certainly encourage anyone to pursue a degree in petroleum engineering. I think it's a good one. And living in Atterau, I think it's an excellent one.
And one more. Is it available for me? I mean, for women?
Absolutely. We have in fact, some of our youngest and brightest new petroleum engineers are indeed women.
What about the operation? Will you hire us?
We have women in our operations as well, and they're very successful.
Promise?
I promise.
Thank you.
Welcome, Tengiz.
Саламатсыз ба, мистер Тим.
Саламатсыз ба, қалайсыз?
Здравствуйте, присутствующие. Мистер Тим, у меня вот такой вопрос. На фоне сегодняшнего... студент второго курса Казахско-Русского международного университета. Извините. У меня вот такой вопрос. На фоне нынешней политической ситуации мы сейчас наблюдаем, что под давлением правительства многие компании Соединенных Штатов отказываются сотрудничать с Россией. А поскольку Казахстан наитеснейший сотрудник, напарник России, Российской Федерации, партнеры, не скажется ли это вот на сотрудничестве Тенгизшевройла и Казахстана? Вот такой вопрос.
Well, Tengiz, that's a great question, and I love your name.
Thank you.
You're a super giant oil field, right? We're certainly concerned about the tensions that are going on and the sanctions that have been placed. Our biggest concern with respect to Teнгизшевройл is the movement of our products through Russia and through Ukraine. Primarily our liquid petroleum gas and sulfur. And we have a large percentage of our products that pass through those countries on the way to export. We've had to make some changes in the routes that those go to avoid some of the conflict areas. But our hope is that in time they'll find a political settlement and things will settle down and everybody will calm a bit. But we've been watching this situation very carefully. We've been putting in place some things to mitigate the concerns that we have, and we're watching the landscape very closely. Thank you.
Я тоже на это надеюсь. Спасибо.
Hey, Mr. Miller. I'm Gulzat. I want to ask you, when new people come in to apply for a job in TCO, what do you look at? I mean, what's the most important standard that your employers have to have one job?
Okay, good question. Well, you know, one of the most important things is a match to the open job. We, at Tengizshevroйл, we post our open jobs on our website, and you can go look at those open jobs and see if you qualify. But one way that people are disqualified immediately is that there's just no fit with the job. Either they don't meet the minimum requirements or their experience has nothing to do with the job that's open. But after that, we'll find a group of people that have a good fit with respect to their education and experience, and we'll bring them in and we'll test them. We'll actually give them a test and score them on the tests, and those that pass the tests, we'll do a face-to-face interview. And that interaction and the impressions that the interview team has with that prospective employee helps us make a final decision on who we select.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Есть ли у нас еще какие-нибудь вопросы? Может быть, из аудитории еще кто-то хочет задать вопрос? Ну, такой шанс и больше не выдастся. Ну, хорошо, тогда мы... Еще один вопрос.
Well, let me comment on, while you're on the way down. The questions have been absolutely great, and you don't know how much I appreciate your level of English fluency. I'm really impressed with everybody, and congratulations for that.
Пожалуйста, вопрос.
Немножко не про меня, я флюенси не владею, поэтому на русском буду задавать.
That's okay.
Да. Хотел бы спросить вас о следующем. Как вы относитесь к инициативе создания молодежных советов на предприятии? И планируется ли в компании ТШО создать молодежный совет? Совет по вопросам молодежной политики. Молодежное движение какое?
Yeah, I understand. We have two networks currently working in Teнгizshevroйл. One of them is called the Women's Network, where we gather women into essentially a network where they discuss the challenges of women at work. And we bring some of our senior female leaders to those the women's networks, and they discuss their success stories. We have another network in Teнгizshevroйл called XYZ, and that is young career professionals, and again, another opportunity for them to get together, to learn, to bring in guest speakers, to talk about ways for them to be better employees, and for them to all learn from each other. And so those are two networks that we have already in place in Teнгizshevroйл, and the XYZ network taps into the youth that we have.
Это получается как учебная программа, я так понимаю, да?
So is it kind of like an educational
No,
program?
it's a volunteer network where they can come together and help each other to learn and progress their own careers.
Спасибо.
Thank you.
Еще один вопрос.
Здрасте. Меня зовут Руслан, я тут вопрос записал. В продолжении, наверное, вопроса Юрия, какие эффективные механизмы подскажете по развитию в студентах, молодых специалистах инноваторского и изобретательского мышления?
Долго, наверное, писали. Повторите, пожалуйста, вопрос еще раз.
Да, я записал, потому что вопрос тоже такой какой-то накрученный. Какие эффективные механизмы подскажете по развитию в студентах и молодых специалистах инноваторского и изобретательского мышления?
Good question. Thank you for that. I think it is setting environments where people are free to throw their ideas out there. You know, if a leader comes in and controls a meeting, and it's only my decisions and only my ideas that are good, then innovation dies. And so what we try to do at Tengizshevroйл is set an environment where we have lots of disciplines that come together, kind of across discipline meetings, and we try to encourage our leaders to be quiet and to be the last ones to speak rather than the first ones to speak. That way we can get the ideas from all the different disciplines and all the different diverse points of view in the meeting, and as those points of view come out, we get innovation.
Спасибо большое.
You're welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Tim. We are glad to see you today. I'm a student of this college. My name is Timur, and my question is, what do TCO expect from a new employee in the first coming? You know, some strengths of the employee.
Good question. My name's Timo too, so I like that name. You know, I think our new employees, we just look for them to be a sponge initially, to learn as much as they can from their mentors and the other people that are working. And the people that are not too proud to say that, hey, I don't know, can you help me learn this? And so we expect our very new employees to be a sponge to absorb the knowledge around them. And as they do, then they begin to share that knowledge with others and learn their own craft as well. So the very early students, we expect them to just ask a lot of questions, to go to our training, and certainly to follow the others that are already in our organization.
You mean learnable, right?
That's right. There's another word that's actually not a good English word, but it's followership.
Yeah.
There's leadership, and then there's followership. So our early employees, we want them to be able to follow.
Oh, thank you very much.
Добрый вечер, мистер Миллер. Меня зовут Уликешев Оскар. Я сотрудник ТОО Магелегаз, нефтепромысловый геолог. У меня вопрос касается геологии. Так как я являюсь патриотом Республики Казахстан, хотел бы задать: все нефтяные компании иностранные приезжают в Казахстан и в основном добывают нефть, газ, все такое. Каковы ваши инвестиции в геологоразведку? То есть на каком уровне, то ли обсуждается, или вопрос по инвестиции в геологоразведке?
Okay, well, it's a good question. Tengizshevroyl's formation in 1993 restricted us to only work in Tengiz and the Korolev reservoirs. But our partner companies, Chevron, ExxonMobil, Kazmunaygas, and Luke Arco, are all active looking for exploration opportunities in Kazakhstan and this region. But as far as TCO goes, our specific mission from the president is to only work Tengiz and Korolev reservoirs, and that's what we do. And it's plenty for me to focus on.
А в других районах каковы перспективы ваши? У вас есть какие-нибудь планы инвестиций в геологоразведке? Другие регионы, то есть?
We don't, again, we only focus on the license area that we have, and we're not permitted to go outside of that. And I'll also say, just as a comment, I'm not a geologist, so I'm not even qualified to speak on geology. But a good discipline, and I wish you luck with your education and your career. Welcome.
Спасибо.
Good evening, Mr. Miller. My name is Sarkanov Murat. I'm a student at Atral Institute of Oil and Gas. I have a bit more of a fun question.
I'll be the judge of that.
I mean, oil and gas industry provides us opportunity to travel around the world, and you yourself have been to many countries. Where was the best place for you to work at, best country, besides Kazakhstan, of course?
Oh, besides Kazakhstan? Well, I've enjoyed every assignment that I've had. Each one of them have had, parts of them that are just tremendous, and each one of them have had their own challenges as well. We started out working in Kuwait when we started working internationally, and it was a culture shock for us. It was a temperature shock for us, but it was a great place to grow up my children and also to learn more about the Middle Eastern culture and to travel in that area. And then we went to Brazil. Again, everybody knows about Brazil. It's a great place. It's a fun place. Great beaches. But where I lived in Rio de Janeiro was a bit dangerous. There was personal crime was very high. So every place I've been has some really positive things and some negative things. And I think part of the success is just to focus on the positive and just to mitigate any issues with the negative. But all of my assignments have been tremendous. I would go back to any place that I have been before. And my hope is that I can stay in Kazakhstan for longer.
All right, thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Miller. Thank you very much for this lecture or seminar. I have a question. I'm a senior year student at Nazarbayev University, and now we need to decide what to do with our life's work or to continue a graduate studies. And I have a question. Is there any difference for TCO between bachelor's and, for example, masters in chemical engineering or engineering management?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. I certainly, every job that we have minimum qualifications, and we have a group of people that apply, and sometimes people with master's degree may be looked on more favorably, but not always. And I had a question directed at me recently about, when I was 5 or 6 or 7 years into my career, why did I not pursue a master's degree in business administration or something like that, an MBA? And I struggled with that because I know a lot of the leaders in Chevron have those advanced degrees, and I thought, well, can I get to where I wanted to be without that? And I chose at the time that I would build my career on experience rather than additional degrees. But I think everybody has a decision to make. Everybody has a different thought about more school or less school. But if you have the drive and initiative to get further degrees in education, I would certainly not suggest you hold back from that. Yes. Sounds like a good opportunity.
Thank you very much. And another question, do you have some opportunities for people with their PhDs? Do you have some research facilities in TCO or something like that?
We don't have strictly research activities in TCO, but we've got a lot of PhDs working for us. They're usually PhDs in geology or petroleum engineering. We've got a few doctors that are working in our groups. They're very specialized, but we do have some that work for us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Tim. Welcome to APEC. So I'm a student of this college. I've been studying here from last year. So we have 3 specialties: production field of operations and instrumentation technicians. And third is PT, petroleum engineering technicians. So last 2 specialties have we finish with international certificate and Kazakhstan diploma. But if we study petroleum engineering technicians, we get an international diploma and certificate, Kazakhstan. So is it important to have a diploma, international diploma, to work?
Well, what we do is, we look at people's qualifications and the diplomas that they have, and then we bring them in and we do our own separate testing of them to help us assess where they are. And depending on how the results of the test, then we put them into certain categories of which jobs we think might fit them best.
Now, I mean, if I wish to work in a field somewhere else.
Well, we've got people with degrees from Ataral, from all over Kazakhstan that are working for TCO.
It doesn't matter, right?
It doesn't matter. Yeah.
Okay.
As long as it's a good education and you can think straight.
Okay. Thank you.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
My name is Evork, and currently I'm a student of APEC, which is a branch of SAIT in Kazakhstan. I've chosen my specialty as instrument technician, and I'm, as a student who is graduating next year, I'm interested if we have opportunity to apply for a job in, for example, in TCO, and I'm wondering if we have opportunity to work.
We have a real shortage in instrument technicians and instrument specialists, so clearly there's an opportunity there. I think somebody with a degree like yours is a great candidate to work for TCO. We also have some needs in electrical engineering and electrical specialists too, so those are good fields to be in. I think you picked a good one and a good time.
Thanks.
Well, before this turns into a career counseling session on how to become Mr. Tim Miller, I'm going to say that this is the last question. So, последний вопрос.
Good evening, sir. My name is Nurken, and I'm a student of this college. And my question is, I passed it about 8 or 9 months ago to TCO, and I passed all exams, and also after the interview, I was informed that I would have my results after 2 months. I passed it to the instrumentation engineering position, but now I'm still waiting my result. Why?
All right, well, you wait down here and give me your name, and we'll see if we can't find out what happened to that, okay?
So I guess I'm going to ask you the one last question. Do you have any specific advice to all those young people sitting here in the audience?
Well, in my way, there's kind of 2 ways to get ahead. And one is just to work harder than anybody else. And that's the way I would suggest you do it. And the other is to get lucky. And luck is usually not a very good strategy because it just doesn't work out all the time. And I would invite you guys just to study hard and then to work hard. And once you get into the workplace, just make a decision that you're going to work harder than anybody else around you. And you'll succeed.
Thank you very much for coming here. Еще раз давайте